You are listening to The Confidence Project, episode number 148. Welcome to The Confidence Project. I am your host, certified life coach Lærke Nielsen, and I help smart women who doubt themselves calm their overthinking brain so they can stop hiding in the background and instead speak up and take confident action. In this podcast, we are shifting your identity. You're becoming a woman who believes in yourself and who wants to live her best life starting today. Hey you, did you ever experience yourself as more quiet than what you wanted to be? Like in a setting where you hold yourself back from saying something, although you do want to, you have something to say, but you are not speaking up. Maybe you don't feel comfortable sharing your ideas. Maybe you don't know people around you that well, or maybe you overthink what you want to say and then you decide to not say anything after all. I can say the number of times that people have told me I'm quiet, especially when I was a child and a younger woman, that happened many times. And there was a time where I felt it was a big problem, that I was somehow broken and needed to be fixed. I needed to become more extroverted and talkative because apparently I didn't speak enough. Often this would happen when I spent time with people who were the opposite, people who were talking non-stop. Then they would find it strange that I didn't say much, which today, looking back, I think might have been partly because they felt bad about talking so much. So they would say something like, "You're so quiet and I'm talking all the time." But in some cases, it was also difficult to get a saying when other people were talking all the time. And I remember I read somewhere that people can feel insecure with quietness. Whereas if you constantly share what's on your mind, then nobody is in doubt where you stand. Nobody is in doubt if you're in a good or bad mood. If you're more quiet, it can give rise to insecurity in other people. I had periods of time where I practiced talking more. I would make it a project. I would try to study how other people did when they were small talking, what they would be talking about, what was in the small talk, and how they respond to the other person. And then I would try to imitate that. It was a project of mine. I wanted to become good at small talking. And I can say it is actually possible to learn how to small talk, even if you don't particularly like it. And this can be very useful sometimes. It can be a handy tool to have in your social backpack. Today, I'm much less quiet than I was when I was young and when I was a child. But I'm still not the most talkative, and especially when I meet new people, I tend to more listen and observe. But the part of my quietness that was caused by insecurity or lack of confidence, that part is basically gone. So the quiet that is left is my nature, the way I see it. Because you can have a quiet nature, you can be an introvert and not feel the need to talk a lot. And then you can also be quiet because you feel insecure and you feel that it's not safe to share what's on your mind. And so I would say that the nature part, the wiring that you might have as an introvert, you don't want to force yourself to change that. But the part of you who's quiet because you lack confidence and where you really do want to say something, but you hold yourself back, that's the part you want to work on. Because there are situations in life where you want to speak up, you want to advocate for yourself, you want to share your ideas and opinions at work, you want to say no sometimes and set boundaries, but you also just want to be comfortable sharing what's on your mind in many situations. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about being quiet and some of the reasons why some of us are more quiet than we want to be, and that you can have learned at some point that it was more safe to be quiet than it was to speak up. And I will share with you some examples of when you might want to get comfortable sharing your thoughts and how you can approach that. Being comfortable speaking up, or not necessarily being comfortable speaking up, but speaking up in spite of discomfort and in spite of having a quiet nature when speaking up is necessary or it serves you. So there is really nothing wrong about being quiet or being introverted. It is amazing to be an introvert. As an introvert, you have many qualities. You are a good listener. You are good at reflecting deeply on things. You have a rich or vivid inner life, and you can be very attentive to details and emotionally attuned to other people and so on. And being a quiet introvert doesn't mean you never speak. Of course it doesn't. It's just that this is not what you're leading with. You're not the loudest person in the room when it's the first time you meet people. So I want you to understand that there's really nothing wrong about being an introvert or having a quiet nature. But sometimes it serves you to be able to speak up. And for instance, you want to be able to share your ideas at work or professionally. You want to be visible professionally. So that could be in a workplace, or if you have a business. You want to avoid getting overlooked or miss out on opportunities because you're just not visible and nobody knows what you stand for and what you can do and what your thoughts are and what your competences are. You can also imagine situations where you want to advocate for yourself. You feel that you haven't been treated fairly. For instance, you were charged for something you didn't get. They put the wrong dish on the bill at the restaurant. Or someone caught you in the line. You were standing in the line and waiting, and someone just walked in front of you. Or someone took credit for your work. For instance, this is also a situation you want to stand up for yourself. You want to advocate for yourself. And then, of course, there can be many situations in life where you want to say no to something. You want to set a boundary, either at work or privately, something you just don't want to do, you don't want to be part of it, or you don't have the time, or it's not a priority. You want to be good at that as well. And then there could be a situation where you want to ask for things. Like you want to ask for permission to join a project at work, for instance. Or you want to talk to your boss and ask for a raise, or ask them, how can I get a raise? What does it take to get better paid in this job, for instance? This can be difficult to ask for. And then, just in general, when you meet new people, you want to be able to show your personality to them. You want to be able to share what's on your mind, share your thoughts and ideas, share your opinions, because this is how you attract friends and connections that are the best possible match for you. People who resonate with your values and your ideas. And it's also what is important when you go dating and you want to attract the right match for you, the right person who is absolutely crazy about your ideas and your thoughts. And you want to repel those that do not understand what you're talking about or don't really get where you're coming from. So authenticity is really, really important. And you have to share thoughts and opinions and ideas before you can really show another person who you are. Of course, it's not only through talking that we get to know someone, but it's a big part of it. So I hope it's clear that this is not just about speaking up all the time because everyone else does and you want to take as much space as anyone else. This is about the situations where you really have something to say. You are allowed to be quiet if you don't feel a big need to speak. But there are situations where you really need to advocate for yourself and you really need to speak up. You have something important to say. You want to share what's on your mind. And then for some reason, you hold yourself back. You stop yourself. These are the situations you want to pay attention to. And what typically happens is that you might find yourself overthinking before speaking. Let's say you are in a meeting at work. People are talking about a specific problem. You have an idea, you have a solution, or you have an idea how to solve this problem. And then you start questioning the validity of your thoughts. You start questioning whether it is actually that smart, or what are they going to say if I share this? Can this even work? And you can maybe become very critical towards your own ideas before you even pronounce them, before you even speak them out. So there's a lot of overthinking before you make a decision to talk. And then maybe you say something, maybe you don't. But if you say something, what typically happens is you replay the conversation in your head afterwards, especially if something just didn't land exactly the way you wanted it to. Other people didn't respond to you the way you were hoping they would. And then you start feeling there's something wrong with what you said, there's something wrong with you. And you replay the conversation again and again. And this is just painful. This is just suffering. And this has nothing to do with being an introvert. This is where you have some self-limitations. You are limiting yourself and you are allowing your inner critic to take way too much space after having said something. Now you can wonder, why is it then? I mean, one thing is if you have a quiet nature, But in the situations where you feel like you have a burning issue, you really want to say something and you still don't do it, what is the reason behind that? Why are you quieting yourself? And there can be a lot of early conditioning going on. Of course, if you look at your life and your past experience with speaking up all the way from childhood, there have most likely been some situations where you felt it was not safe. It was not safe to speak up. It was not safe to be seen and heard. And here you can ask yourself, why was it like that? What did you experience when you spoke up? What was the reaction you had from other people? And you can imagine many different situations, many different reactions that made you come to the conclusion that it's better to be quiet. Maybe people would shame you. They would make you feel that there's something wrong with you. Like they would criticize your thoughts, for instance, or your opinions. Maybe you had experienced ridicule. Maybe they would be laughing at you. You said something that really came from the heart and people wouldn't even take it serious. They would laugh at you. Maybe some people would be angry or disappointed or really hurt because of something you said that was not at all hurtful in your opinion. That wasn't the intention at all, but that just landed in the wrong way. Maybe you have experienced some kind of punishment when you spoke up, or maybe even dismissiveness. Maybe you have experienced that nobody listens anyway. Nobody is gonna hear what I have to say anyway, so why even bother speaking up? And so if you have several of these experiences where it didn't pay off for you to share your mind, to share your thoughts and opinion, or to just speak up about a need that you had or something you felt that was wrong. If it didn't pay off and on top of that, there was a risk involved, then your conclusion will of course be, I'm going to feel worse if I speak up and nobody's going to take me seriously or nobody is going to react the way I want them to react. Then of course the conclusion is it's not safe to speak up or it doesn't change anything, I can't bother speaking up, and it feels vulnerable. It feels vulnerable to show your thoughts and your opinion if people either don't react at all or they react in a very negative way. And so that's when it can feel more safe to be quiet in the moment. But here's the thing, on the long term, it actually isolates you to be quiet when you really have something to say. You're going to feel like you're closing yourself up in a little box and you're not connected to the rest of the world. We can look at this also from an evolutionary point of view, because humans need belonging. We need to feel that we belong somewhere in a group. We need to feel accepted by the tribe. And it's a natural part of being human that we are afraid of standing out. So when you speak up about something, when you express an opinion, you already are standing out from the group. You take the floor and you say something that there is a risk that not everyone will agree with you, but you actively put yourself in everyone's center of attention. So that's of course vulnerable, and back in the days, if there was a risk that you could be excluded or somehow the group would judge you, so there was a risk that this would impact your belonging to the tribe or the group, then that could be a serious survival threat because we could not survive on our own back then. So you could say it could be, in the worst case, a sort of social death, and that would also equal a physical death because nobody could survive alone because you needed the group to survive. You needed your tribe in order to stay alive, basically. So this is just deeply wired in us, and this is why we care about what other people think of us when we speak up. We fear other people's judgment. And that is okay. It's okay to have some kind of consciousness about what other people think of us. And I would say the only people who truly do not give a shit about other people and what they think, they are sociopaths, right? If you take it to the extreme and you don't care at all, it's not normal, it's not human. So it's okay that you care, but it's not healthy and it's not serving you to let the fear of other people totally block you and stop you from speaking up, even if it's just sharing your thoughts and ideas. You can also ask yourself, what does it cost to stay quiet, like in the long term? What are the costs of staying quiet? I think basically this is something I feel really strongly about. I think that there are so many brilliant ideas and thoughts that never get out into the world because people are afraid of sharing them. especially those of you who are introverts. You are carrying little nuggets of gold that nobody ever sees, and I think it's such a shame. It's such a shame for the rest of the world that they don't get to hear your thoughts. Basically, you are hiding from the world. You're hiding all the interesting things that are going on in your brain from the rest of the world. This could, of course, impact your friendships, ability to form friendships that are really aligned with who you are. When you meet new people, it can be more difficult to make friends with the ones that are the right fit for you if you are not comfortable sharing who you are and being authentic around them. And we can say that could, in the long term, actually mean more loneliness. Because loneliness is not just about being alone, it's about not being with people that feel like they are a right fit for you, the right connections. And in order to find the right connections, you need to put yourself out there. You need to show yourself to other people so that they can see, okay, here's someone with whom I resonate. We have the same ideas of what is funny and what is important. We have the same values, and we speak the same language, so to speak. And when we speak about professional life and career, if you are not sharing your thoughts and ideas at work, you might be overlooked for opportunities and for participation in different projects and so on. If people around you don't think of you as a potential candidate for something because they don't really know what you stand for, they don't know your thoughts and ideas, you will miss out on opportunities. And that could, again, in the long run, mean you miss out on lifetime earnings because you don't get the promotion or you don't get other opportunities that could lead you to grow your career. As with friendships, so it's also valid with your love life. It's more difficult to attract the right partner when we are not really showing who we are, when we're not comfortable being ourselves and saying yes to the things we really like and no to the things we don't like, and share our opinions even when there's no guarantee that the other person agrees. So we could say, in general, if we are hiding ourselves and not speaking up and being too quiet in situations where we should actually say something and we want to say something, it can lead to feeling very unfulfilled. It can lead to feeling resentful, a little bit bitter, and maybe even envious of other people because they have what you don't have. They share their thoughts and opinions and people applaud them. And where you might have the same thoughts and opinions, but you held it back. And it's very typical to feel that you are not actually at your full potential. You still have something you can show the world. You're still like a flower who hasn't completely blossomed yet. You still have some potential to show the world. And as long as you're not doing it, you can feel frustrated and self-restricted. And this can also really impact your relationship to yourself. Like, for instance, when you're not advocating for yourself. I've tried this many times where I felt someone treated me in an unfair way and I didn't react in the situation. And then later on, I got so frustrated with myself for not having said anything or not reacted. Let's say someone is trying to convince you into something, or someone made a mistake that is costing you something. Like, again, you paid for something you didn't get. You paid for a dish you didn't order at a restaurant. Or someone caught you in the line where you had been waiting for half an hour. And it was very impolite, but somehow you held yourself back. Or someone at work took credit for some of your ideas. That's also very frustrating, right? So not speaking up in these situations will make you bitter and angry with yourself, first of all. And that is really not serving you. So with all these costs, potential loneliness, loss in lifetime revenue, less opportunities in life, less fulfillment, feeling resentful, bitter, and maybe even self-loathing. And the frustration from hearing other people talk about something where you think they're completely wrong, they haven't understood, you strongly disagree, and you maybe even feel triggered or provoked by what they're saying. You want to share your thoughts, you feel like you're about to explode if you don't share it, and then you still do not do it. And this is, of course, really frustrating. And these are costs you don't have to pay. You don't have to pay that. You can learn how to speak up and be comfortable with that. And so how can you approach that? How can you support yourself in that process? I want to say something that is a bit counterintuitive here, because I want you to begin with embracing your quiet nature. Stop making it a big problem that you're an introvert or your nature is not to speak a lot all the time. There's so many people in this world who love to talk. and they talk all the time and they barely even listen. So if you're an introvert, you should really feel proud that you're one of the people who is able to listen. It's not a problem that you're an introvert. You have to not just accept that, but really embrace that. There's so many qualities in being an introvert. And if you haven't read the book Quiet yet by Susan Cain, I can highly recommend it. This is a book that has made me really embrace my introvert nature much more and see it as something not just acceptable, but actually feel proud about it. So once you have let go of putting a lot of pressure on yourself and making it a big problem that you're an introvert, then I want you to sit down and distinguish between the quiet that is your nature and the quiet that doesn't serve you and that might come from feeling unsafe or insecure in certain situations. The quiet that doesn't serve you, this is what you want to work on. And try to separate these two things. Try to ask yourself, when are you more quiet than you want to be? And when is it not serving you? When would it be better for yourself, both on the short term and the long term, to speak up and share your thoughts? And then you want to decide to take charge of your nervous system and speak up when it serves you, whether you have a quiet nature or not. This is something you can do. Now, I shared before my own story in a previous episode about having this thought that I'm too quiet. I was criticized a lot as a child for being too quiet, and I was told all the time, you should talk more, why don't you talk more? And I really felt like I was broken. There's something deeply wrong about me. And all these thoughts about being broken and all the pressure I put on myself to talk more, that actually blocked me from speaking more. I didn't feel inspired to talk. So putting pressure on myself to speak more, it did the opposite for me. And it's quite normal when you think about it, because if you feel broken, you rather hide from the world, right? You don't want to share yourself. You don't want to open up if you feel there's something inherently wrong with you. And it wasn't before I started seeing introversion as a quality, as a power, that I stopped making it a problem. That was the moment I could relax and let go of all this pressure. And all of a sudden, I felt like sharing my thoughts. I felt like talking. So it kind of opened me up in a new way, that I stopped making it a problem. I stopped making myself wrong. So if you have any idea or thoughts about I should be talking more, I want you to stop doing that now and start to see your quiet nature or your introvert nature as a power, as a quality. If you say nothing at all, it's still okay, but you might want to. No one is going to force you into speaking if you don't feel comfortable. It's not something you have to, but it might be something you want to. And that's a whole different story. So start to look at where are you more quiet than what you want to be. Identify your areas of growth. And then I would say, if I'm to answer the question, how do you then work on this? The short answer here is hire a coach. I really want you to consider that, because this is one of the things I can help you with. And I really know what it feels like to be frustrated about yourself because you didn't speak up. And I have many different tools and different approaches depending on what is your specific situation and what is your history, what is your experience with speaking up, and why you have at some point become more quiet than what you want to be. But I want to say in general, this is a work that has to be done on both the mindset level and the practical part. So you want to look at your mindset. You want to identify what are the limiting beliefs that keep you quiet. What is it that your inner critic is telling you? What are the thoughts you have about yourself and speaking up? And then we want to rewire your brain into believing something new, having a new narrative, having something that can really inspire you and boost your confidence so that you can speak up when you want to. And that is, of course, very individual. It's important to find something that works for you, whether that is it is safe to speak up, or people want to hear my thoughts, like from curiosity. People want to know what's going on in my mind. Or it could be people need to hear my thoughts. If you are helping people with something and you want to share something that can potentially bring a solution to the table, then maybe it's more people need to hear my perspective. Or it could be I promised myself to share this, and from a self-commitment perspective, you want to share something. And once you have the mindset in place, and we can go much deeper about the limiting beliefs and when did you start quieting yourself and so on, we can do much more about that in the coaching. But once you have worked through the mindset, you want to do some practical challenges. So you want to decide ahead of time different situations where you can practice speaking up. And here, of course, you want to look at the specific situation and try to find out, what is it that's holding me back? What am I afraid of? What is the worst that can happen? What if that happens? How do I want to speak to myself? What do I need to remind myself? And so on. This is almost a whole coaching session in itself, where you really can walk yourself through all the different scenarios and get comfortable with whatever you can imagine happening so that it feels more safe to move forward. I always recommend that you have a way to have your own back after having taken a challenge like this that feels out of the comfort zone. You have to, before you do it, decide, what is it I need to remind myself afterwards? What is my success criteria here? What are my reasons for being proud? Even if people don't actually get what I'm saying, even if they don't react the way I want them to. And this is going to help you let go of replaying conversations in your head and overthinking on repeat. It's going to make you feel more comfortable the next time that you want to say something if you have already thought all the scenarios through and you have found a way to have your own back. So now, of course, I have focused on speaking up in the more spontaneous situations in daily life and at work, for instance, or in your spare time, in your social life. But what if what you want to do is to actually give a speech or a presentation, so not just speaking up with a few sentences? That is a whole different story, but my advice for you, first of all, is whenever you have to give like a longer presentation, you want to focus on what it is you want to say to people and why they need to hear this. Who will benefit from what you have to say? And how will it benefit them? This is basically all about taking the focus away from yourself and placing it outside yourself. Put the focus on the people that you want to speak to and that you feel will benefit from what you have to say. Are you going to help someone solve a problem? Are you going to help someone feel better about themselves and their life? Are you going to change someone's life with what you have to say? Then this is what you want to focus on, and not so much if you do it perfectly yourself. But the whole thing about presenting and giving speeches and so on is a whole different episode, because there's a lot you can do in preparation and there's a lot you can do in your mindset, in your breathing, in your way of taking little breaks where you speak and so on. It's a whole different story. So maybe I'll do another episode on that. But right now, I want you to just practice speaking up in daily life situations. Unmute yourself. Don't let your inner critic quiet you. Show the world what's on your mind. Share your thoughts and ideas and your opinions. People would love to hear it. And I promise you, once this becomes a habit and it's more easy for you to speak up, you will feel much better in life. You will feel less frustrated. You will be able to breathe more freely because you know you can say yes, you can say no, you can speak your mind whenever you want to. If you have something to say, then speak up. And if you want my support, you can book a call on the link in the show notes. I would love to help you speak up. I would love to help you go through this process where we identify all the limiting beliefs that block you from talking, that block you from sharing what's on your mind, that makes it feel unsafe to speak up. And then rewire these beliefs into something more empowering and more encouraging and inspiring, and help you get your thoughts out there and be more comfortable being visible and being seen and heard, because this is also a very basic need for us as human beings to be able to express ourselves. So that was all I had for today. Have a beautiful week. If you like what you're hearing on this podcast, I would be happy if you can give me a rating and a review and share the podcast with a friend. And if you now feel inspired to do this work and become a woman who fully believes in herself, then book a free call on the link in the show notes. I would love to talk to you.